Hello, hello. Let's talk about Dreams of Fire by Nathaniel Wayne, a 2010 fantasy post-apocalyptic science fiction book. One of those. It's there's a mix going on here, and I have my own interpretations of it. First off, Nathaniel Wayne. That is the one of the names of Vera Wylde. Vera goes by Vera Wylde, she, they, gender fluid, runs the Council of Geeks on YouTube, a YouTube channel I really enjoy for her commentary. I watch the odd thing that they do on Doctor Who, but I'm not that much of a Doctor Who fan. But I definitely, through Jessie Gender and a couple of other people, I've come to know and really, really enjoy their channel. So this is one of these kind of weird reviews where I don't know if I'll make this super public, just because I feel like I don't know Vera at all. This is strictly parasocial, but I always feel like, am I a fan reviewing a novel by somebody who I'm a fan of, and that feels odd to me. I always feel weird doing those kind of reviews, but I'll just talk about the book and we'll see how it runs from there. So yes, this is, as you can see, this title, this young guy, Ferris, who is on the run out in, when we join him in the wilderness. He is on the run from a scientific institute, and is kind of gained shelter in a one of these outposts. The nature in this world seems to be ruled by the Fae, very much the fairies, and we are styled with things like the Morrigan as the leader of them, a kind of a very fearsome, powerful female-like figure. He has nightmares of a black mare, where it's sort of just basically the kind of absence of a horse shape is all that's there, and is a thing. Ferris is on the run because he's on the run from a institute that studies people like him, which are elementals who have powers, and very much this is a scientific institute which is treating them like lab rats, studying them against their will, imprisoning them, doing often torturous things to them, and he's managed to get free. And throughout the course of this thing, we find out there's another young girl who has also gotten free at the same time, and their stories do end up intertwined. He is being hunted by a what is described by one of the characters as a half-breed, a half-fae, half-human creature named Garion, who seems to be kind of, as the nature of kind of characters like this, is despised by both sides of the thing, as kind of an interesting character of himself. He does a little bit of stuff at the outpost, manages to escape, gets to the city of Torvik, which is a little bit more outside of the Guild of Scientists' control. They seem to have independent power source of their own that allows them to kind of exist on their own. This is all very much coded, though, as, it's interesting, it's very much coded as kind of, these people are working in kind of medieval times, kind of technologies, with little bumps of like, oh, suddenly there's a car, so there's the combustion engine. But there's a lot of other stuff which is very much like pre-scientific revolution, even though there's very much, as in like the Science Guild, people who are obviously using the scientific method in sort of sometimes of ways it's kind of very kind of inhuman in that, and are looking for ways to exploit things. And on the other side, you have the Fae, who seem to be very angry at the humans. And indeed, Garion has a kind of a key thing of this deeply suppressed hatred welled up inside, a hatred he fought every day to bury as deeply as he could, a hatred of everything humans had built, everything they had destroyed, and a hatred of how human he still was. So he's got that internalized kind of hatred of what he is, this mix of human and Fae. So we've very much got this. They're hunting him down. Now, Garion has been hired by a professor at this institute, Professor Rains. She wants Ferris back very much. He seems to be an important subject for her. And a lot of the novel is him trying to um, stay free, to evade capture. He wants to get out of the city as possible. He finds other elementals with differing powers. They've got differing powers who are also very much keeping their powers to themselves. It's very much one of these things of like, it's not like, oh, I have magic powers, isn't this great? It's like, no, I have for Ferris here, he's got the power of fire, and it's very destructive and it's dangerous. He is a dangerous fellow. So there's not, it's one of these things where there's, it's how the society treats him that probably turns him into such a dangerous thing. But like, it can explode out of him if he represses it too far. And I mean, he's trying to stay hidden, so he's repressing it, so he becomes more of a dangerous thing. There's very much the X-Men vibe going on here of here's a society that does not want whatever talent, what is the inborn thing of this young guy, and that causes all sorts of stress and anxiety and self-hatred in himself. So as much as you can see kind of like how much the mutant kind of the X-Men superheroes, how much that has been used as a metaphor for racism, for LGBTQ plus things. That very much the sort of the same thing here is in the Dream of Fire. So yeah, I mean, I think my reading of this book is that this is a kind of a fallen version of our own world. Like it's a post-apocalyptic world, that something past cataclysm, probably caused by the exploitation of the earth by human beings, has happened. And as a result, the Fae have retaken over again, and human beings are only just kind of barely holding on in outposts. And a lot of the technology has been stripped away, but they still have technology, and they are still capable of trying to exploit things, which really pisses off the Fae, and Fae makes them want to finish human beings off in that way. So that's my interpretation of this. There's something in here that I also missed, like I know other science fiction authors who've really not spoon-fed things to people and let them kind of figure out for themselves, like, oh, we're actually not in a medieval world, we're in a spaceship flying through space, stuff like that. It's not quite that. I think it feels like it's still, recognizably the Earth, but it's an Earth where the magical has reasserted itself. And possibly even reasserted itself in a new kind of form of human beings, stuff like that. Now, as for the writing of this book, I think it's their first novel. Work on my pronouns. Their first novel. And I found the writing at the very beginning of the novel pretty rough. I don't know if that's my own kind of like, oh, I'm trying to kind of take in this world, but there felt like there was enough kind of awkward sentences in there that, I mean, the beginning of any novel is doing a lot of work, and the beginning of a novel where you're kind of introducing a world to readers is doing even more work. The fantasy science fiction novels, they have a lot of work to do at the beginning. So maybe it's not too surprising that it feels like it slightly struggles there. I don't think that's just my own struggling, but it struggles there. However, you kind of get past what felt like a bit of a clunky opening, and it becomes just a really good story. I'm really impressed by how much, yes, there's this whole kind of thing of world building, but it's world building with this smaller story happening at the front of it about, Ferris in particular. We get Ferris's point of view, but we also get Garion's point of view. We get Professor Rain's point of view. We get various things to kind of make the world, build the world up, build up all the characters, make you care about all the characters in the world, not just simply Ferris is the star and everybody else kind of revolves around him. It's like, no, you kind of get a lot of different stories going on here, which I really liked. there is a thing about like my argument for why this is probably a fallen Earth is that the characters have a lot of the characters' names. I had a lot of fun with like highlighting something and it pulling up the dictionary or Wikipedia, you know, story on various names, because you definitely get a melange of different things. Like, the Morrigan is a figure from Irish mythology. Geryon is a character from David Eddings' Belgarian. Get Orias from the Navarre and the Pyrenees. You get a Norse with a Vatir sprite, kind of very kind of Cthulhu-like in his thing. Poena is the electric girl elemental, and that's Greek myth. So there's like a whole blender of kind of like older kind of culture that is embedded in the book, and I think that's kind of, it's not just like a fantasy author who's just kind of picking things willy-nilly. I think there's very much that they are constructing a world that is constructed on the heap, the ruins of our own world there. So it's a nice way of it's a nice way of doing that. You know, yeah. So I like, I enjoyed kind of like the themes. I enjoyed that, like, the powers have their very much their limitations and their own kind of logic to them. So there's that. It's interesting having the magical world outside. It's like, I don't know if it quite connects, if it does connect or not, to the mutations of these. Like, they are almost still scientific, the human beings and their manifestation, whereas the monsters outside, the fantasy monsters outside, are very much more, it's kind of this mix of the science and fantasy, the fantastical being kind of more of a metaphor for the kind of nature is angry at what human beings have done. So it's like, yeah, it's a really interesting world. Vera has mentioned that they might actually come back into this world and tell more stories in it. I think there'd be like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for that there. So I really enjoyed this, and I hope to read more. All right, I will leave it there. That is Dreams of Fire by Nathan Wayne, also aka Vera Wylde, that's who I will refer to them as, is Vera Wylde. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.